Hey, I'm Jazmine Young, and I'm here with my roommate, Emma, today. So, Emma, what loss experience have you had that you are ready to discuss with me today?
My grandmother.
Gotcha. Well, tell me what happened with her.
She had a brain bleed, and it was bleeding in her brain, and so they did a craniotomy to fix it, and then it came back, and then she had like a brain aneurysm and passed away.
And when did that occur?
May of 2020.
Gotcha. And it was sudden, you said?
Very.
Gotcha. And how old are you when that happened?
20.
Gotcha. And your grandma was close to you? You were close to her?
Very.
Gotcha. So what was the most difficult part of the loss for you?
Probably how quick it was. We didn't have time to prepare at all, and it was in the middle of the pandemic, so we weren't able to be around her.
Gotcha. How was it happening during the pandemic and everything?
It was really hard. Only one person could be with her at all times, so my mom had to go, and then planning a funeral during COVID was really hard too.
Gotcha. What made it so difficult?
We couldn't have a certain number of people in the building, and then a lot of our family was out of state and they couldn't travel.
Gotcha. So, Emma, what are some sub-losses that you realize you experienced?
My grandmother was really the only thing keeping me in my home church, and so after she died, I kind of just stopped going, and so I don't really keep in contact with any of her friends anymore or that church.
Were you close to her friends, or like the people that went to the church?
I was closer to her friends. They
Gotcha.
kind of didn't have any grandkids in the area, so they kind of adopted me and my brother.
Oh, so you were really close to her? Well, they're her friends.
Yeah, we usually saw them at least once or twice a week.
Gotcha. And what was your emotional response to your loss, do you think? Did it affect you a lot emotionally?
I think so. I think it was delayed because it was so shocking, so it took me a while to process it. So I don't think I really, felt anything until her funeral.
Gotcha. And did you, express any, emotion?
Not really outwardly to my family because my mom was very, distraught because she had to make all the decisions because she's the only one in our town. And that was really stressful, plus with the pandemic.
Gotcha.
So I kind of held it in until the funeral.
And I guess that was pretty stressful for you, too, having to be there for your mom during such a hard time while you're also grieving the loss of your grandmother.
Yeah. And then because she was so distraught, I feel like I also took on, taking care of my brother.
Gotcha. And was he affected any, do you think?
Yeah, I think this is the first loss that he really remembers in our family, so I think he kind of didn't know how to process it, but the day of the funeral, he was pretty upset.
Gotcha. And you mentioned that you said that it took you a lot longer to process it, so it unfolded over time. What did that look like for you?
In the beginning, I didn't really have a reaction to it because everybody around me didn't, and then I think as time went on, it would make me sad when I thought about it. And I still didn't want to talk about it. And then eventually I just kind of got to a point where it didn't make me as sad anymore and I could talk about her with other people.
So I remember you mentioning your mom and your brother were impacted a lot, but how was your dad impacted?
He was pretty close to my grandmother too because he kind of did everything for her because she was a widow and lived by herself. But he didn't really show emotion because he feels like he needs to be the strong one for the rest of the family.
Gotcha. And how do you think their response to her passing affected your grief and the way that you processed it?
I think because they didn't really outwardly show it, I felt like I shouldn't outwardly show it in case it upset them.
Gotcha.
So I kind of waited.
Yeah. And so at what point did you consider your loss, resolved or worked through maybe?
I would say probably when I went back to school and I really had something to focus on instead of just kind of sitting at home.
Gotcha. Thinking about it?
Yeah, right after it happened.
And how did you know that you, worked through it?
When I could probably think about her and things that we used to do without being really sad.
Gotcha. And what was the hardest thing to keep doing after her loss?
Definitely going to the same church because I grew up going with her. So her not being there was kind of weird and everybody knew that she was gone. So it was constantly having people coming up to us saying, we're sorry, and it made it hard.
Yeah, I feel like that would be really hard for you. And I know this is a strange question, but were there any, silver linings to the loss?
In a way, we were actually in the process of moving across the country and we were very worried about her safety, I guess, being there by herself, or if we were going to have to take her with us, and that kind of resolved that issue in a way.
Gotcha. And I'm sure that brought a lot of stress to you.
Yes.
Gotcha. And is there any way that you remember her or something that you do to like keep her in your life today?
I have her car actually, so I drive that every day, and then I have a couple of pieces of her jewelry and things from her house that I keep in my room.
Gotcha. And how did this participating in this interview make you feel? How was it going? Thinking about her, talking about her, how did that go?
It was nice to remember her and think about the way that I really processed my grief, because I've never really thought about it before.
Well, thank you so much for participating.
You're welcome.